It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
What's up, everybody? You know what time it is. From the forum, 9 o'clock Central. Tonight, we're talking position battles. Omarion Hampton, Najee Harris, Cole Kmet, Colston Loveland. What the heck's going to happen? Hope you're ready for a good one. I got some good guests. We'll see you in the show. What's up, everybody? Man, I got a crew. I got Joe and Hype. Hype, what's your...
You can't be asking people that, man.
What's the actual name? Or is it just Hype? Is that what it is?
It's Greg. It's Greg.
What a name. What a name.
Yeah.
It's like Greg. My name's Greg.
Greg.
It's like, nah, dude, it's Hype. No, I'm just kidding.
It's Hype.
That's fun. Well, look, you guys know, and we're just going to kind of go around the horn real quick, let the audience know, where you create content, where they can find your work, and then we're going to jump right in. And they see me and Joe Frick every week, so we'll just let you two guys go. Hype, you start us off, and then we'll get right into it.
All right. I'm Hype or Greg, whatever you want to call me. I do most of my content on YouTube and X. I'm going to start doing some Instagram and stuff, though. But on X, it's just my name on here, Hype FFL. And I do a show called The Fantasy Advantage on YouTube. You can follow me on there.
Awesome.
Yeah, I should be more used to this sort of stuff. I should have put my Twitter handle in the name, but you can see my name down there, Joe Bartle. That's the important part, I guess. But you can follow me on Twitter at JB Fantasy Sports. I've been at RotoWire now for the past 10 years, doing a lot of different content, mainly just NFL. I host the SiriusXM show from 11 to, well, I guess it's noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Friday, and then Angel Fire Radio on 10 to noon on SiriusXM channel 87 in the morning on Sundays. So it's been a lot of fun. Do a lot of different content on YouTube as well too. The RotoWire Fantasy Football YouTube channel is awesome. My guy Jim Coventry is literally a star in the making if he's not already there too. So you got to check us out. Hopefully Jim out, not even so much me, on the RotoWire YouTube channel side of things. And I'm excited it's an honor to be on the show. I'm excited to get to the positional battles here.
Yeah, Joe, appreciate you for tuning in. Greg, appreciate you for coming on. Well, as you guys know, we're in the middle of the off season, and when you get into the off season, Joe, I know it's so weird it's saying Joe and Joe. Frick Nasty. Frick Nasty.
There you go. There you go. My government name.
Yeah. You know that like some seasons can be decided by what happens as we lean into the preseason, right? Like these position battles, and maybe right now you're drafting, right? And you're taking your shot on Omarion Hampton, right? Or maybe you're taking your shot on a late round J.K. Dobbins, and you're wondering how that's going to play out for you. Maybe you're drafting Xavier Worthy over Rashee Rice, and you're sitting there, in a similar ADP range, and you're going like, which of these is really going to have the return? And that's part of the conversation tonight. So as we kind of dig in, and if you're tuned in, make sure you hit the like and sub. If you have questions, pop them in the chat. We'll make sure we get to them. But, that's kind of the question too, is it's not only of like who's going to be the top performer, but also who's the greater value at ADP, right? Like, because if I can get similar value in the 10th round as somebody that I'm going to get in the 4th round, and I can use that 4th round pick on somebody that still has that same value, well, my team's going to be much more loaded. So that's what we're going to kind of dive into as we get going tonight. And we're going to start with quarterbacks, and we're going to start with probably one of the most controversial ones, right? Everybody has been waiting to see Anthony Richardson do anything since the combine, when he had one of the greatest athletic performances that we've seen, and his draft stock rose dramatically based on a high jump and some athletic metrics. We have been waiting to see him in the Shane Steichen system do well, right? And we haven't got it. And so now they bring in Daniel Jones, who arguably is kind of, at least halfway as mobile, but maybe has a better arm. And so there's a quarterback competition there. And especially in these leagues where you're valuing run heavy quarterbacks, right? Like this is a big decision. So, Greg, you kind of start us off. How do you feel here with the Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones debacle?
Well, it's pretty interesting. If through training camp, if Richardson hasn't made a change in some of his really bad decision making, then I think Daniel Jones kind of runs away with the job. The problem is Richardson has a lot of really good physical tools. Like he can escape in the pocket, move around a lot really well. Obviously, he can run, and the guy makes some of these really crazy physical, like contorted body throws and makes them catchable most of the time. The problem is he just does it too much. He's always trying to push the ball down the field. Just last year, he threw deep passes 20% of the time, which was 14%, I think was the closest, which is part of the offensive scheming because Joe Flacco was 4th in that list on his team. So his average pass past the line of scrimmage was 12 yards, which was the most by 3 yards of anyone else. So if he can clean that up and stop trying to do so much, and the offense can scheme things in and help him get easier throws and easier passes, I think he could still take it, but it's really hard to believe in it from what we've seen. So I do think that Daniel Jones is the guy who walks away with the job.
All right, Joe, you in agreement?
Yeah, yes. So I want to be clear to the audience listening. There really should be no realm in which you're considering drafting either one of these quarterbacks.
Oh, come on.
We in this foursome panel are probably in enough deep leagues where we have to have this awful conversation. Do I take Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson? Please, God, if you are in a league where it is that deep, consider other life choices, because I often think as I'm going through this, why am I doing this? I love talking about football. I love talking about fantasy football, but Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson, who's going to start, is one of the grossest questions I think you can ask. I wouldn't be shocked. If you looked at the odds right now, I think the Colts, as one of the worst records in the NFL this year, is they're like the 6th or 7th worst team in that regard. I think a lot of people assume this Colts offense and Colts team in general is not going to be very good. I think the answer to this question is far more football related than fantasy football related than we really want to acknowledge. I think the Colts organization is a mess. I don't know what happens now post Jim Irsay, rip Jim Irsay, but I do think there's an opportunity for the organization to do something differently than they have since the Peyton Manning days. I think Shane Steichen understands he's coaching for his job. I certainly know that Chris Ballard is aware that his general manager status is also up for grabs as well too. They are at competing odds though, because I think Chris Ballard, in order to keep his job, needs Anthony Richardson to be not only a starting quarterback for the Colts, but an upper echelon one, at least positive trajectory, other than the one throw to Alec Pierce that happened last year. There has not been any semblance of positive trajectory for Anthony Richardson.
Throw.
It was a great throw. It was a great throw. That was the only one, right? And I think Shane Steichen understands, well, hey, if I don't get a head coaching, or if I get fired from the Colts now, I need to make sure that other teams understand that I can at least coach well. In this case, I'm going to win football games. And Daniel Jones is probably the one that does that right now over what we've seen from Anthony Richardson. So I think the front office and the coaching staff is at competing odds too. If that sounds like a healthy dynamic for a competitive, good football team, I don't think so. I'm just concerned overall. So my answer really is I don't want to be involved in either one of these offenses from the quarterback position. I think the bigger deal is who benefits in the scenario either one is the quarterback, if you guess it correctly. And I wouldn't be shocked if Riley Leonard also starts at some point for the Colts too. That's how I could kind of see this end up happening. So Josh Downs to me is the answer to this. It's not the quarterback situation, but who benefits in either one of the scenarios. Josh Downs as the Wan'Dale Robinson for Indianapolis, Daniel Jones. I think is the biggest winner. And therefore, I'm rooting for that scenario. But I'm going to tell you right now, again, please just consider other life choices if you really need to have one of these two quarterbacks on your roster.
So Joe, we're gonna kind of segue from that question. So it sounds like both of you are like Danny Dimes is the best potential option for that offense, and is really the possibility of saving that head coach job. So maybe that's the question there, since we got that from both y'all. Although really the narrative seems to stay away from it. So in the realm of offenses to stay away from, let me ask you this. Would you rather own a Giants quarterback in a Russell Wilson or Jackson Dart over an Indianapolis quarterback? And if so, who do you think wins that battle?
You win with these. A lot of these, like so many of these, and then you forget about the season because you've had so many of those.
For those listening, he is talking about forget all your memories beverages. That is what he is talking about. But yeah,
a mind eraser, if you will.
Yeah, mind eraser, season eraser. Look,
Riley Herbst from 2311 Racing here, and you know what grinds my gears? Waiting for coffee. But instead of counting frappes and lattes, I fire up Chumba Casino. No apps, no fuss, just fun social casino games to pass the time. By the time my coffee's ready,
order for Riley.
I've already taken a few victory laps. Next time you're stuck waiting, make it entertaining. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
It happens. But, Joe, I'm curious. Do you want the Colts quarterback room over the Giants quarterback room? And furthermore, kind of moving over to the Giants quarterback room, who do you think holds that job majority of the season? Or who are you drafting in fantasy?
So, to me, it's an easy Colts. I think that there's sneaky upside there for no other reason that Daniel Jones will run the ball. We've seen him have a top 12 year from running the football. Anthony Richardson, despite him getting tired sometimes and pulling himself out of the game, was third in rushing yards per for quarterbacks last year. So that is a bit of a cheat code. If you look at the narrative last year, it was, Anthony Richardson, he's going to break fantasy football. Look what he did in those limited opportunities before he got hurt. And I was like, well, the offense was so bad, he wasn't completing 50% of his passes that it didn't matter. Russ Wilson, he did have that scramblability back in the day. He's a little bit older now, doesn't really have that. The not being able to see over the offensive line isn't all that good. I think that he can pepper Malik Neighbors quite a bit, but as far as purely the quarterback position, there's no question that you got to go with the Colts guys. And I don't see a scenario unless Schoen and Dable think that they're going to get fired midseason. They don't want to play Jackson Dart right away. That's something that's like a sit, let him learn, figure out a snap cadence that isn't clapping your hands, and then let's see what we got next year.
The thing is, BHS Cardinal said in the chat, he said lots of coaches on the hot seat. And I think we're looking at two really here that are in that world. So that decision, not just for us in fantasy, okay, who's going to produce for our fantasy team as a last, 3-round pick in our fantasy drafts, right? Or do they even get drafted? But these coaches are saying, okay, who do I bet my future career as a head coach on?
Right.
And, I do agree that the Russell Wilson, especially through the beginning, I think that Jackson Dart, if you watch him at Ole Miss, he just struggles when he starts getting hammered, right? And that comes with a little bit more of that veteran presence to take a sack, get up, look another sack in the face, and still get the ball out.
Yeah, Russell's a legend at that.
Right. And I think so. I think that the Giants, I think that Dable has created the best possible situation for him to extend, even if they don't win a crazy amount of games. If they get they get 6 wins, right? And he was I roll with Russell Wilson as we got Dart ready. I think he gets the closest chance at another year versus the Colts, which are still a hot mess. Now, Steichen's supposedly a quarterback whisperer, so maybe that's a little bit different. But Steve Belanda in the chat here is saying if Riley Leonard gets the starting job by the end of the season, Colin Cowherd is the biggest winner. He's been lighting them up the whole time.
Tyler, can I hit the around the horn buzzer? Can I jump in here? Is that possible? You had said Jackson Dart struggles when he gets hammered. I'm just going to tell you, as a Wisconsin alum, I have no idea what that concept is. I thrive when I'm hammered. So, speaking of the beverages that Joe Frick was referring to, no, I do agree with the concept of this. Like, it is a compelling question if we're considering round 17 best balls. But frankly, Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones, Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, Jackson Dart, that's a five-sum of quarterbacks that I don't think will impact things up until at least October and November. And in the case of Joe Shane and Brian Dable, that's their golden ticket for their jobs being extended. I think even the scenario the Colts are 7-10, you probably clean house with, again, the unfortunate passing of Jim Irsay. I don't really know what the Colts organizational structure will look like, other than there's already been a lot of pressure. So there has to be a crazy scenario for the Colts offense to really change things around and the narrative to be a positive one. Whereas all it takes is Jackson Dart in week 14 throwing for 200 yards, touchdown, 2 picks. And it's like, wow, I mean, he had a pretty good throw. We just did it with Anthony Richardson last year, right? Like, that's all it will take for Brian Dable and Joe Shane, I think, to have an opportunity with Jackson Dart to extend their jobs.
Yeah. I love the take. We got some people in chat. Sup, fellas, from Albert. Lion Light Worship, pumped for this show. Over on Twitch, love the show. Appreciate you tuning in. Brent Bradford, what's up? Danny Dons for the win. Rooting for Daniel Jones to have some kind of resurgence in a new offense. It will be interesting to see what, if they roll with him, what Steichen can do with him. I think that will be an interesting question. But I do agree, and I know we have a lot of quarterback battles, and we're going to kind of come back to quarterback. I want to continue to progress the conversation, right? We'll talk a little bit about the Browns. So if you're, I know that's the one that's on one of the ones on everybody's mind. So we'll get there. But like you said, in fantasy, and I think the Browns kind of enter that conversation, especially in a one quarterback redraft league, right? The quarterbacks that we're talking about into the draft. Like, we're talking about some of the last quarterbacks drafted as far as somebody that could start for your fantasy football team. So I want to transition to running back right now, because with the rookies coming in and the running back landscape, this is a position, even with, if you're playing the Scott Fish Bowl, there's a huge emphasis on the running back position this year. So it's a big question mark. And, I would say before this conversation, it was probably a lot different. If you saw a thumbnail, you saw that, one of our main topics is Najee and Omarion Hampton, right? And before the fireworks disaster, right, it was obviously even a much more significant question. We don't know what it's going to be, because despite the thumbnail where it's one eye, my understanding is that it's both eyes. But, Greg, what's your feeling on this running back room? I mean, is this going to be a Lions where you got Montgomery and Gibbs and both are actually creating value for you? Or is this a running back room where one is going to completely take the show and is going to institute themselves as the stud, and the other one's just going to kind of work to the backflow?
And I just want to jump in real quick before he goes, just to give some kudos a little bit. Like, running backs is this guy's stuff. So if you haven't checked out his content, like, this is what he does. So it's like, listen closely.
Thank you for that. Yeah, no, this one's gonna be tough. The whole Najee Harris injury on July 4th, that really made this one hard. Because I honestly was assuming that Najee is gonna take the lead and he's going to run away with it, at least for the first half of the year. I mean, the guy isn't bad. He was just stuck on a team that had a terrible O-line, doesn't like to do things that make sense with Arthur Smith, playing as the OC. So, Omarion Hampton is a guy that I think I'm lower on than just about probably everybody. I kind of, just real quick, I have this like 2 yards per carry data that I've created and I've been kind of working on for a couple of years. And like, players that have done really well are Janty and in this class, Devin Neal and Henderson, and Scattaboo and those guys. And Bijan Robinson had one of the best scores I've seen. An outlier was like Devin Achane because of his speed, I think. But anyway, Omarion Hampton, is the worst I've seen. So I am very worried about what he actually does in the league this year and through his career. So I'm at a toss-up with the Najee injury. If I was putting my money on it, though, if what they say is true and he's going to be fine, then I'm still betting on Najee. But Omarion Hampton, even if he takes over later in the year, he's just not worth the 4th-round pick for me.
I mean, at the 4th-round ADP, there's a lot of value there. What about you, Joe? What do you think in relation to those two?
I want to make sure we're talking to the not Steelers, Joe, because that might be a different Najee Harris conversation. Okay.
Not Steelers, Joe.
It's an interesting combo that we have here because I thought I was the lowest on Omarion Hampton relative to the rest of the world. So that we have a panel of it. It's really fascinating. So one of my favorite movies is Dodgeball, and I often think of Steve the Pirate for no other reason than I just think that character is very funny. If you had overlaid Najee Harris as Steve the Pirate, that would have been one of the best thumbnails of all time. So shame on you for not going that direction. What does a superficial eye injury mean? Like that is a terrifying bit of language to discuss, and I understand why the agent would say it that way. It's like you're trying to do the Frank Drebin with the fireworks behind you. Stay calm, nothing's happening. Don't worry about it, right? But like a superficial eye injury, best case scenario, there's cuts around the eye. Like there's some swelling parts of things.
Could be burns.
Right. Like I think of the David Njoku situation where it's like, oh my God, right? Like I don't know what that's supposed to mean, and I guarantee you the agent doesn't want us to know, and we probably won't know until mid-August, even later into that point. And it makes me really uncomfortable because I would agree with you, Greg. Ironically, when we were having the discussion about what is Omarion Hampton as a prospect, everyone gets all excited about Ashton Genty, and rightfully so. And I had said, I think Omarion Hampton is like a better pass-catching version of Najee Harris. And that was before the Chargers ended up drafting at number 22. And it was to what you were saying, Greg, that I don't think Najee Harris is a bad running back. I do think it was less about Arthur Smith, and there are just overall some limitations to what Najee Harris can do. But a 1,000-yard guy that's pretty durable, that plays for the majority of his career, has value in today's NFL. Brian Robinson's going to get a second contract from the Commanders or somebody else and does the same exact thing. Like I don't think it's a bad thing to be Najee Harris or Brian Robinson, but I would imagine Omarion Hampton is the better version of J.K. Dobbins from last year, and Najee Harris is the better version of Gus Edwards. I don't understand why people are thinking just because Omarion Hampton was taken in the first round that'll be any different than what the Chargers did last year. They committed to their offensive line. They didn't do a whole lot in addition to adding receivers. I know they drafted Trey Harris in the second round. Mike Williams is already gone. This was going to be a run-oriented offense, and they signed a guy who is a guaranteed 1,000 yards every single year of his career. So if Najee Harris is not Steve the Pirate, then I would assume Omarion Hampton probably is not good value where he's being drafted, I think, in the NFC, like 4th-round spot. But I would imagine he's going to get pushed up even higher because there is such ambiguity about what a superficial eye injury means and how that can relate to playing football on the NFL level.
Yeah, I think what's driving a lot of it too is that if you look at least from like a dynasty perspective, where I think a lot of the data is coming from, it's like the hit rate for 1st-round running backs, like to have like a good season is like 80% or something like that in the last 10 years. So people are like, oh, like you're getting drafted in the 1st round, great. They look back and say like, hey, like
Bubba Wallace here from 2311 Racing. Funny thing about being fast, you end up waiting a lot. First to show up, first in line, then just waiting. Me, I rev up Chumba Casino. With over 200 social casino games, no slow lanes here. Why sit around when you can spin? I'm already racing. Your turn. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
You had Bijan was the runaway RB1, but you would have people that say now that Gibbs has done better, and I'd rather have Gibbs than Bijan moving forward. So they don't want to miss out on the last time that this happened, kind of thing. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's a shame that stuff like that can even happen, but yeah, the murkiness is going to drive his price up higher than I think I'm definitely going to be comfortable with. And I think Najee is a much better fit for that offense that he was in the Steelers. Like the outside zone scheme that they run here, like it just wasn't a fit for him. So I was excited to see what he can do with the Chargers. I'm still excited to see what he can do with the Chargers, but I think it's going to be a lot closer to a 50-50 split than people are willing to admit.
Not that I want to take over the hosting role, Tyler, but I'm really curious if we get to this point that Omarion Hampton is drafted ahead of James Cook. Are you guys taking James Cook or are you taking Omarion Hampton? Because we're maybe like 10 picks away from that happening. And I think the August steam might get us there.
Cook.
You know, with especially with the Ray Davis rise, like I think that's probably hurting Cook's value. Now, I do think Ray Davis makes a statement, but even if Cook gives up 3 touchdowns and a little bit of his, rushing, I think he's still an effective person. It's tough. I think it depends on how it pans out. Right now, I would take Cook for the value there. But Joe, I will say this. That was probably the best player comparison as far as like their roles that I've gotten on that backfield, like the Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins dynamic. I think that's really on point. Which if you look at that offense, J.K. Dobbins ran with it, right? Like he definitely had the higher production. The difference between J.K. Dobbins and Omarion Hampton is I think Omarion Hampton has the finishing speed that J.K. Dobbins didn't after multiple, knee blowouts, So I think that Omarion, for me, it's Omarion Hampton over Najee. But also that's a byproduct of my opinion on Najee. Najee will be the most effective when he starts to understand that he is not a lateral moving running back. So often in Pittsburgh, you saw him try to sidestep, and it's just such a slow sidestep, and it's just like, it's like you need to do Derrick Henry, and you just need to run straight. Like you're not bad, and you can catch the ball, just run straight, get your yards, and I guarantee you're probably – yards per carry average will increase by probably 1.5 yards if we get down to brass tacks. But I just don't know if he'll do that. And so then when you talk about Harbaugh, right, and who will lean a little heavier with the hot hand, I feel like Hampton just gets a little hotter, but that's me. I'm not to be the opposite, maybe playing a little bit of devil's advocate here. It's a confusing backfield, dadgummit. But
I think that's the thing in situations like this, right? Where it's you win fantasy leagues by being willing to target ambiguity. And you're not going to hit every single one. But if you steer clear of we know that the Chargers are a good rushing offense, right? Mm-hmm. So if you find a guy that's slipping in the draft or you can get value there, take the chance. You might not hit every single one, but if you're going to take a guy that is probably going to be on a terrible team or they're not going to run the ball a lot because, I know he's the bell cow. Well, if he gets all 12 carries and they all suck, it doesn't matter. So it's attack that ambiguity. You're going to get value. Maybe you say, hey, I'm going to take the lower guy every time, or is a guy that I feel passionate about, get after it. That's where you're going to get the value because everyone doesn't know. Everyone's guessing to some degree. You're going to have some people that plant the flag because then they can brag about it or delete their tweets later. But that's where you're going to get value. If everybody knew what was going to happen in the season, we wouldn't be playing this game.
And here's the separator to me. When you talk about positional value, right? I think Najee's the greater value because of how much further down his ADP is. I do think Hampton has the higher probability of big plays and big playmaking ability, but at the cost of essentially 4th round draft capital. Mm-hmm. That's the shift, right? That's the shift that we're talking about. And I don't know that I can pay that price for a rookie we haven't seen on an NFL field yet in an offense where we know they're going to run the ball, but we don't know how it's going to be delivered. So digressing from that, Joe or Frick, you have the Steelers patch on your shoulder. And
I'm a little bit of a fan.
Look, let's be real. There's been a lot of talk recently, that maybe Jaylen Warren actually owns that backfield. And with the drastic
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
ADP difference between Caleb Johnson and Jaylen Warren. Like, who are you taking in fantasy as a Steelers fan who knows their offense and knows what they do, right? Who's the better gamble?
So how I said that Najee is a horrible fit for the Steelers offense, Caleb Johnson is a glove fit for Arthur Smith. Like, glove fit. Like, seeing him in the third round, it was like, that's sexy. I like that. You're essentially getting a second first-round pick this year with Troy Fautanu coming in and sliding in the right-hand side on the right tackle. So, like, that offensive line, they've really worked hard. Their assistant GM, Andy Weddle, he was an Eagles guy. Build from the trenches and work your way out. The Steelers are priming to figure out who their next quarterback is, and they're just kind of throwing random people in there in the time being. But you can tell they're going in the trenches and they're working their way out, both sides of the ball. That being said, I do think that Caleb Johnson's being overdrafted. If you think about what Mike Tomlin does with his rookies, he doesn't just throw them in right away, and you have to build that trust up over time. So I think that Caleb Johnson's going to have a role to start the year, but people say, oh, well, Warren has his role, and then he's just going to replace Najee, who was the starter. Like, Mike Tomlin don't get down like that. Like, that's not how it's going to work. Could he eventually be the early down guy? For sure. Jaylen Warren's a great third down blocker. That's something that Caleb Johnson's going to have to work on. So you can't just flip it and say, okay, now you're the Jaylen Warren guy, because they're not going to throw him back there with Aaron Rodgers in his one leg and wash a trip. Like, they need Warren to be that third down guy. But it's like, I don't have a lot of optimism in this offense. So, like, if you have a guy that's going to be carrying the ball a decent amount but not really getting the pass catching, give me Warren, who's still going to get a sizable chunk of carries. He'll get the PPR, but I don't really care much for either one of these guys in the backfield. Like, this isn't going to be a high-scoring offense. The offensive line is unproven, and they're going to be running like 20 tight end sets because they're probably going to trade for 3 more. So it's just like, I probably wouldn't pick either, but if I had to pick one, I would go with Warren.
Well, you know, when Darnell Washington is essentially another lineman, and so you get to cheat and you get another lineman on your line, like, who doesn't want to run behind that? You know what I mean?
Him and Broderick Jones will be back next to each other. Got the little bash bro action. It's gonna be a good time.
About the same size.
I mean, you might as well.
So Greg, how do you feel about it? Are you in the same boat with Joe on that?
No, I mean, no hate to Warren, and that's not I'm not far away from Frick. I lean the Caleb Johnson way. Warren's like the Marcus Smart of the team. He's the heart and soul. Everybody loves him, and he has a role and he does it very well. Caleb Johnson has insane vision, and this kid is going to tear teams apart. He's really, really good. He's patient. He has that instinct that you want in your running back who's going to lead the team. So they're both, I do agree. I'm not sure if I'm going to have my hands on any of them because there is going to be a lot of sharing. But if I'm going to pick one, I'm going to take Caleb Johnson.
Oh, that's so tough because Warren's basically free. Right now
on Underdog, Caleb Johnson's RB23 and then Jaylen Warren's RB33. So in that tier where Caleb Johnson's at, you've got like RJ Harvey, Travion Henderson, Caleb Johnson. They got like the rookie club. Then you got Monty, DeAndre Swift, Pacheco. Like, give me any of those last 3 guys that I said over Caleb Johnson any day of the week.
And I think Warren is elevated in best ball because of the potential, big plays. So in redraft, his ADP is even much lower than that. We had a question from Aaron Dubs in the chat, and he said, could Warren be the number 2 on Pittsburgh in catches?
No.
I don't think so either. I'm going to put this out there. You need to watch out for Calvin Austin. You need to watch out for Calvin Austin. Calvin Austin was probably the most freak athlete the year he played at Memphis. He was the most freak athlete on the team, and we just haven't really gotten to see him yet. And I think that there could be, in my mind, and maybe I'm just dreaming it up, but like I just see this Aaron Rodgers, Randall Cobb dynamic between these two guys, and we get a lot of PPR love between those. And so just that out there, I don't think Warren is number 2 on catches. I think we're going to see the emergence of a young wide receiver.
Yeah, but you know what? If they were smart, they would just take all of the tight ends with Calvin Austin and put them in the backfield and just throw him over the line in like short yardage situations.
Yeah.
It would be unstoppable. It's like the new tush push.
Him in Washington.
It's true. I mean, 20 yards away. He can get real lift. Like where somebody, you got a linebacker standing straight up and they still don't touch him. Like he could get lift.
Yeah.
Washington could just hold him over his head.
Yeah.
Walk down the field.
That's a hilarious take.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So for the sake of making sure that we get to each position, and we'll kind of come back and we'll do some quick hitters at the end. I want to get to wide receiver rooms. I think that there's a significant conversation to happen there. We've got some, and in the order of operations for the show sheet, I had them in a little bit different order, but I'm going to pivot a little bit because of the news that came out, just a couple yesterday, that for Rashee Rice, that what was going to be the verdict on his case, and what we can look to see for him in the NFL. So Joe, I want to throw it to you. With the Kansas City Chiefs, when you're talking about these wide receivers, you got Rashee Rice, who's his ADP is like, you're talking about round 4, like pretty highly drafted for somebody that's going to miss time. But Xavier Worthy has creeped up the board, and I've seen him go as early as round 3, right? And I don't think that's but I've seen him go that early. Hollywood Brown's cheap, Juju's cheap, and then there's a lot of energy behind the rookie Jalen Royals and how he fits in that offense. So I would love for you to just break down for the listeners kind of how you bake these, and then who you would target in your draft if you were going to target a KC receiver.
Yeah, before 2 days ago, I would have said Rashee Rice is probably one of my favorite values in fantasy right now. That could have been best ball, full point PPR, redraft. Doesn't really matter because there's a point in time where I think everyone just assumed he's going to be the number 1 receiver for the Chiefs. But what does that really mean? And the answer has been, well, the offense hasn't been that great, so I don't know if it's that valuable. But sort of what the more handsome Joe had said with the Steelers and the way that they work in their rookies later in the season, the Chiefs do that as well. And you think about Rashee Rice's rookie year, it was only like week 10, week 11 on where that he came on and became, I think, the alpha receiver in that group. And whether he was predestined to be that or not, or drafted to be that, that's a different question. But I think the Chiefs are very deliberate in making sure that they bring those young guys up. Not even so much that it's up to speed for the young guys, but to not reveal to NFL offenses that this guy can make a massive difference in our offense. Yep. Xavier Worthy was the same exact way last year. And I get accused of this at the office, and probably rightfully so, that I'm a sizist in so much that I don't like drafting smaller players. Devon Achane would be a perfect example. He was one of my fades last year. I still have egg in my face from that one. But Xavier Worthy was also somebody I wasn't drafting. I thought best case scenario for Xavier Worthy was peak Commanders and Eagles Deshaun Jackson, where here's a sub 170-pound guy who can get 1,200 yards receiving on 60 catches. The offense has to make that possible. And I'm like, well, yeah, of course, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, they'll be able to do that. But the defense also has to allow that too. And defenses for years haven't been playing the Chiefs to allow Xavier Worthy to be that way. I don't think there is a possibility, even in today's NFL, where there are smaller defenders, tackling players, that you as the Chiefs, who have Super Bowl aspirations every single year, want to throw your 165-pound receiver out there like he's a 100-catch guy. Tyreek Hill was 20 pounds heavier when he was doing that for the Chiefs a couple of years ago. And even then, defenses sort of took that away. So in my mind, Xavier Worthy is still going to be the deep threat, much like we saw in the Super Bowl last year. I think that's the best case example. But you're going to see Marquise Brown be the beneficiary so long as Rashee Rice is out. And that's the complicating factor in this. And to answer it truthfully, I probably won't be drafting Rashee Rice anymore. Or at least I'll need to wait to see what the suspension might end up being. If it's 6 games, that gets negotiated down to 4. That's much different than 4 negotiated down to 2 or 3, like we've kind of been seeing. there's way too much ambiguity and a lot of receivers like Chris Godwin, Mike Evans that I like in that range instead. So I might be taking Marquise Brown instead from like around 10, 11, 12 ADP value in best ball as opposed to going up and pushing Xavier Worthy. But if you choose to do that, if you want to go ahead and say, well, Xavier Worthy's going to be the guy, I don't really blame someone for thinking that process. I just get really concerned about what would happen if I was going to say Patrick Willis. I guess I'm dating myself as to when I liked linebackers, but a Fred Warner smacks Xavier Worthy over the middle when he's trying. Like, I just don't think the Chiefs can use Xavier Worthy that way. Like, he literally isn't built to be that sort of target. So if you think he's peaked Deshaun Jackson for this Chiefs offense, great. He probably will be. That means defenses are playing them completely differently than what they have the past 3 seasons.
Got a couple in the chat. Fantasy Football Show, yo, and Mr. Magic saying buy the dip on Rice with the suspension. Maybe Rice drops 3, 4 rounds. Maybe.
I mean, now if Rashee Rice is in the 7th round, like, I will be eating the dip, the chips, everything else that comes with it. Like, that's like insane.
Yeah.
Okay, so I like to take because we have so many rooms to cover, we're going to kind of move a little bit. And Greg, I'm going to throw over to you. This Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver room, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, they took a high draft capital on Emeka Egbuka. You got Jalen McMillan, and then unknowing to most, you also still have Sterling Shepard there. And so, for this offense, you got Mike Evans. Really, Mike Evans and Egbuka are pretty close in ADP, maybe separated by a round and a half. Chris Godwin's in that. Who are you targeting?
Okay. Well, just to add really fast to that last part, Worthy, I put out a tweet that I will tattoo his name on me if he's a top 5 wide receiver in PPR this year.
Why would you announce that to the radio?
Because we can delete tweets. You saw Joe.
At the end of the day, it's not that bad though. He's literally tattooing Worthy on his body, so it's like it could be a religious thing. Like there's so many plays on that. Now, if you tattoo Xavier Worthy, then we're talking something.
I know. I did agree on full name. It's a very heated conversation I had with someone the other day. So, I
can only imagine who it might be.
Probably Disco. Yeah. But so on to the Bucks. Honestly, they have.
Hey, Greg, real quick before we get into that, I just want to make sure we get these user questions as they pop in. We want to go to the Bucks, but Ron T had a question. Would you guys trade Olave for Sampson and a mid-second in Dynasty? So just hit it real quick. Would you make that trade?
Probably not. No.
Absolutely.
Well, would you make that trade?
Absolutely not. Olave, I have a 50% exposure to Olave in best ball right now. He's easily one of the completely misunderstood prices I think out there at the moment. No, Olave is a top 10 receiver in real life NFL, provided he still has a head after next season. No, I'm not trading away Olave.
It's crazy. Before the concussion last year, like, you would have had like him and Garrett Wilson essentially like in like a similar conversation.
Yes.
And it's like he had a concussion and people are like, oh, I should just drop him.
Right.
It's like, yes. Okay. Is Sampson hot right now because of like the Judkins news? Like, dude's a piece of crap, but like their Browns aren't getting rid of Judkins. Like, that's not going to just go away.
No, we're talking about the same regime that said, Deshaun Watson, what happened? Oh,
yeah, I'm pretty sure that Judkins is going to get a contract extension fully guaranteed after what he did.
250 mil.
Okay, we got to digress from that one. So back over to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Greg dropping the knowledge. The Fantasy Football Show also asks, why is Mike Evans so disrespected in drafts? And I agree because especially like if you want to get a value, extend your draft as close to the NFL season as possible. Because for some reason, Mike Evans, as we go into draft, drops. And by the time we get like right up next to season, if you're doing your draft, he's like dropped 4 rounds in ADP every single year. And it's absolutely wild. But anyways, Greg, I digress. Please give us your take on the Tampa Bay wide receiver group.
All right. So yeah, they have a very good problem to have. It's way too much talent in the wide receiver room there. Godwin coming off the best career 7 games he's ever had, going before he gets hurt last year, and then Evans being Evans every year. Mike's automatic 1,000 yards, 8-9 touchdowns. Like he's just always going to be that. McMillan having a mini breakout in the last 5 to 6 years, who I drafted in Dynasty and believed in. And that also got me Neighbors in a package deal, which was awesome. And then they went out. Yeah, that was a great deal. They went out and they got Ibuka, who is a really awesome prospect. And he can play any spot really in the wide receiver room, but he's like a slot king. And I think him and Godwin are really going to fight in that like wide receiver 2 slot area a lot. And they're both going to have a lot of success. So it's really hard to feel out like where you should draft these guys. You want to say like the cheapest one, but give me Mike Evans. I think that's the best deal for what you're going to get out of him. And his ADP, like you said, is just drops all year long. So by the time you're almost at football season, Mike Evans is probably the guy you're going to draft above everyone. So yeah. Godwin, I like Godwin a lot. He's coming back from the injury, but once he's on the field, I mean, to the moon for me.
Have they said anything about like what's the status of that? Because like people are like, oh, like he's coming back from this injury, like his foot fell off.
I can't do Chris Godwin.
Wishy-washy.
I'm out. I'm zero draft like of Godwin. But that's me. This is a personal decision. For the
you just don't like people named Chris health. Tyler. Why are you fitting Chris Godwin? What's the issue?
I've just never been in on Godwin. I would take Mike Evans every year over Chris Godwin. And there's multiple receivers that I would take over Chris Godwin every year. Like he's never been high because Chris Godwin is the opposite of Mike Evans. Okay. Chris Godwin is the guy that the closer we get to the season, somehow his narrative increases his ADP. And the next thing you know, we're drafting Godwin in the 4th round and we're drafting Mike Evans in the 7th round. And everybody's going, what the heck is going on? But again, that's my perspective. Joe, obviously you may feel a little bit different. Are you in on Godwin?
Yeah, is this more handsome Joe or just me, Joe? I forget
this
now.
Is you, Joe.
Okay.
The more handsome Joe, we're calling Frick.
Okay. I mean, I just don't think that's acknowledging how handsome Frick is, but that's fine. Well, so it's funny. You and I met at the FSGA draft in Chicago a couple weeks ago, and I partaked in the FSGA experts draft that we had live on SiriusXM. I inadvertently committed, I think a cardinal sin, frankly, of fantasy. I went all the way in on the Buccaneers stack. I had Bucky Irving in round 2. I had Mike Evans in round 4. We were talking live on air, and I was like, well, I would love Chris Olave. Somebody sniped me right before. I know my co-host liked Chris Godwin. I was like, well, let's have a conversation about Chris Godwin. I'll take him over, say, Flowers, over Jameson Williams, over Xavier Worthy. Didn't realize that I had then committed Bucky Irving, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin to that mix. I actually am completely fine with the Buccaneers offense overall. And maybe there's some like hindsight bias that's coming out right now, but the Buccaneers just can't do it again. There's no way for a 3rd straight time that the offense coordinator change can withstand the offense. I disagree. I think the division stinks. I think the Buccaneers are the best team. They're as even keel and as medium coached as you can ask for, which really all is you could need to win the NFC South. And provided Chris Godwin is back healthy, and I think he will be, at least if it's not in the first month of the season, he'll certainly be by Thanksgiving be back. And that matters a lot to me. I think the Emeka Egbuka selection was the Buccaneers recognizing, well, Mike Evans is post 30 years old. We don't know if we're going to be able to re-sign Chris Godwin back or not. We know the Patriots want him. There's a bunch of money out there. It's possible he doesn't return. Let's protect ourselves in this instance. And I think that, I guess, the free agency happened before the draft. But either way, when you have Emeka Egbuka, like I thought Greg perfectly illustrated, he's a really, really good slot receiver. I don't know if that's pick 19 worthy, but he's a really, really good slot receiver. Egbuka could play on the outside, though. So if you're saying the Buccaneers are going to win and be successful this year, it's because of their offense. They lost a lot of pieces on the defensive end. They will need to win because their offense. You are protecting yourselves with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. If one will get injured, Emeka Egbuka does the same thing. So I like Mike Evans from a value perspective. Jalen McMillan's perfect as an outside receiver as well. Like The bigger deal in my mind, and now the answer to this question is more so, how much do we value Tristan Wirfs possibly missing the first month of the year? That's a bigger deal in my mind than whether or not Chris Godwin comes back.
Aaron Dubs asking, no love for league winner Jalen McMillan. Egbuka really clouded that, but also not, because McMillan is not a slot guy. So you still have the opportunity of burn, those big long touchdowns. And I like him in best ball. And for consistency in like standard fantasy formats, maybe not so much, because I think it'll be one-offs, kind of like what people are looking for out of Marvin Mims this year. I think that's like a lot of the Jalen McMillan role.
It's a great buy low in dynasty though, right? Because it's like people are like, oh, well, he's not going to really be playing, but like you saw what he did last year. It wasn't. Like,
I think he is a great buy low because, like Joe said, he may be like, we may be looking at a team that doesn't re-sign Godwin, puts Egbuka in that role, and puts McMillan on the outside. Yep. And then you're not complaining at all. So, that's there. So continuing to move on, and we're getting into the last 10 to 15 minutes of the show here. So I want to make sure we get to tight ends, but I do want to layer out one more wide receiver group, and it's just because it is the question mark of the century, and everybody is wondering what the heck is going to happen and who is going to emerge, and that is the Green Bay Packers, which is a onslaught of what it feels like to be mid-tier wide receivers like for days. And so, Greg, you tell us, with all the greenery in the back in the background there, the Packers, how does this shake out? Is Jaden Reed getting a bad hit? Is Matthew Golden really that good? Can Dubes do it? Christian Watson, if he's healthy, is he actually a wide receiver one for that team? Like, actually, if he's on the field. And then you start getting into Wicks, you start getting into Savion Williams, who has all this hype coming out of the draft for some reason, even though he hasn't had a huge, career at, TCU. Like, and then Mecole Hardman. What the heck? Like, what's going to happen with Green Bay Packers?
You had to pick me for this, man. I don't know. It's literally the biggest toss-up in any wide receiver room in the NFL. Golden's not my favorite prospect. As a Cowboys fan, a lot of people were calling for them to take him, and I was like, please, God, don't do it. Please. He's really inconsistent in his route running and his focus at the catch point. I don't love him. He'll help the offense in the NFL for sure, but he's not the kind of guy who plays that X spot, so he's not going to be the alpha.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you want to get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather, now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Reed last year was probably the most inconsistent player I've ever seen, having like top 15 weeks, 3-4 times, and the rest he didn't touch anything above wide receiver 17. So it's Romeo Doubs, kind of a jag. Same with Wicks and the rest of this lineup in this team. I don't really know what to do with it, and honestly, I'm just going to stay away from the wide receiver room as a whole on this team. Jordan Love's fine. Tucker Kraft, sure, you can get him late. But as a whole, I'm staying far away. This is like radioactive to me. I don't want anything to do with this room.
So the funny thing is, really, outside of Matthew Golden, who's still probably, 6th, 7th round ADP, or maybe 7th, 8th round ADP?
A little bit later than that, yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, you've got everybody here is pretty cheap. Not Frick, but Joe or whichever one of you guys have.
I'm a Packers fan, so I actually feel pretty good. I'm able to answer this question.
Okay,
now,
Joe, bring us Packers fans.
First off, I watched Handsome Joe roll his eyes when it comes to the Packers receiving core. I'm sorry that we beat you in the Super Bowl. You'll get one again eventually. It's okay. I'm sorry that happened. Clearly, I thought that's what the animosity was for, and I just want to let you know it's okay. Yeah, I would agree with everyone's frustrations with this, and I think the vitriol needs to be pointed at Matt LaFleur. And I think Matt LaFleur actually doesn't get enough credit as being one of the better coaches in the NFL. Like you talk about Kevin O'Connell, I understand that entirely. Ben Johnson's this wonder kid, and yet here's Matt LaFleur that I think consistently churns out really, really good production in the worst situations. About Malik Willis last year, that guy was cast off by the Titans, who desperately needed a quarterback, helps them win football games, made a completely different game plan than what you do with Jordan Love. To answer the receiver core question, Jayden Reed is absolutely the best receiver of that group. I don't know what Matthew Golden is yet. Maybe Matthew Golden can be that right now. But it's clear that Matt LaFleur has these silos for the receivers that they have to be. Romeo Doubs will always be the boundary receiver. Jayden Reed, I think, will be a great slot receiver, but he plays on the outside. He has those dynamic runs from right to left, the routes that they'll run. I think with that Love throw against the Rams in week 2 that he absolutely should not have done, right? In triple coverage, catching the left corner. That only Jayden Reed makes that play. Christian Watson does not have the ability to go up and catch that up at the high point. I don't think Matthew Golden does as well, too. I think for this year, Matthew Golden is just going to outright replace the Christian Watson role, which is just stretch the defense out. There's going to be some opportunities, I think, on short throws where a man coverage, he just runs past him. To Greg's point, I don't think Matthew Golden is as refined of a route runner as maybe we've seen of first-round receivers. Emeka Buka, for example, much better route runner. But what Matthew Golden gives you in this offense is a speed element that I think Christian Watson could do, but for whatever the reason, wasn't able to be over the middle kind of catch radius. I think Matthew Golden actually can do that for that offense. But if he's just Christian Watson 2.0, that's also not fantasy valuable. But I think if that makes Romeo Doubs, if it makes Romeo Doubs more effective and it makes Jayden Reed more effective, then Matthew Golden is a valuable first-round pick for that offense. So I'm not drafting anyone besides Jayden Reed. That's the only one I'm really going for because I think there's an upside play where he can do every one of the Matt LaFleur silos. But right now, I agree with all you guys that I'm kind of just avoiding them.
So I guess my question would be, and the thing that I've been thinking a lot about is there's something to be said for a quarterback that's able to support a number one receiver. And Jayden Reed's best season 2 years ago, a lot of that had to do with his success running the football, not that he was like a dominant alpha receiver. So do we think that Jordan Love will hyper focus on somebody enough to give them the targets? I mean, their leading target getter didn't surpass 80 targets last year. So he's very much the spread the ball around kind of guy. Mm-hmm. Do we see, like, even though they draft Golden in the first round, does that change Jordan Love's perspective? I don't think that it does. And that scares me more than, like, I don't think it's a talent issue. It's just the offense runs and they get the open guy and everybody eats. And it's just bad for fantasy.
Correct. I think bad for fantasy is the right answer. Xavier Williams is probably going to do the Jayden Reed role from 2 years ago. Tyler, you mentioned him as like he's getting hype. Well, I've heard like if he gets 8 snaps, that's a good game for Xavier Williams. Like I don't think he's going to be a big factor, but wholeheartedly agree with you that I mean, Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers hyper-focused one guy. That was Devontae Adams because Devontae Adams was one of the best receivers in the NFL. So to your guys' point, even as a Packer fan, I can acknowledge Romeo Doubs, Jayden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Matthew Golden, Christian Watson, they're not some of the best receivers in the league. And I think Matt LaFleur has kind of helped produce has helped make that production happen. If there's one to elevate above that, I do think it's Jayden Reed. I think you talk to what the Packers seem to think, or you look what the Packers seem to think, they believe Jayden Reed can get to that point. But if Matt LaFleur is not trusting Jayden Reed to be that receiver, making those play calls, then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, no, I love the takes. Thanks for breaking that down for us, Joe. So there you have it from Joe, a Packers fan himself. Jayden Reed is the one that you want in that offense. I got Southern Dad's Gaming. Yo, what's up, fellas? Appreciate you tuning in. There's a lot more that I want to get to, but we got to move to tight ends. We're running low on time. And, first off, if you watched the NFL draft, we were covering the NFL draft live at a bar in Nashville when the
terrible place to have to cover the draft. It must have been a horrible time.
Oh, it was an amazing time. But, when the Bears surprised the world and took Colston Loveland in the draft, when they had a good, in my opinion, a complete tight end, a good blocker, good ball catcher. Maybe he's not the fastest guy, but he can still move and get open. And Cole Kmet, and I'm like, I'm telling. It was probably the one pick in the NFL draft that left me completely dumbfounded. I had no idea, and I was like, why does this pick make sense? And maybe they just don't want to pay Cole Kmet coming out of his rookie deal. I don't know what it is, but everybody's asking, and because you see Colston Loveland, like his NFL draft capital, rising significantly in drafts. I mean, he's going up there within your top 10, top 7 tight ends. Like, you're seeing him drafted in there, and Cole Kmet's being left really in most cases undrafted, right? And so, do we really think? And people say draft capital explains all, but tight end's also a slower developing position. Greg, do we think that Cole Kmet is just out, and it's the Colston Loveland show?
No, I don't think so. I do believe they're both just gonna get playtime. I don't think. I'm going to be honest. Before the draft, I didn't really know much about Loveland. I never saw that coming, and I hadn't put any real attention or thought into him. So I was a little shocked that the Bears decided to do a kind of Bear thing and just make a weird pick like that. But I mean, I would have taken Warren if I was going to go that early, in my personal opinion. But no. Okay, all right. I agree. Joe Frick's not a fan.
No,
but Kmet's still good.
Here. Get out of the show.
Yeah. Kmet
I did the right up.
And he's gone. Yeah. That's great.
You can't kick out all Joes because of my comments.
I didn't mean to.
The Joe hate.
You're Joseph.
Yes. Oh my God. That was great. Joseph. Yeah, no, Kmet's still good, and I think they're both going to hold their own in camp. I don't think they can choose between one or the other. So I say, at least in Dynasty, if you have them both, hold on to them, or get them both if you can now. In redraft, I'm not touching them. But if Kmet goes somewhere after this year, he can bring some value later on. I think Kmet, I honestly think he's more talented, but yeah, that's my take. It's kind of just whatever. They're both going to get work, and no one's going to be really great this year.
So what do you think, Frick? What do you think?
Yeah, so Colston Loveland was my number 1 tight end coming into the draft. I know that Tyler Warren had the big year last year, but he was invisible. Like, he wasn't really getting playing time. He couldn't beat out Brenton Strange, Theo Johnson. So it's like, oh man, you're getting the heavy pull in there, right? I respect it. All right. So it's like, I get that, like, there were quality NFL caliber tight ends, but for me, it's like not having like an early breakout at all, and then just having a big 1-year season. Like, I feel like it's very easy to say, hey, you had this 1,400 yard season, whatever, like, you're set. Like, there's a lot of unknowns with having Tyler Warren there. I think Loveland is a better blocker than Warren was going to be. Also on the Cole Kmet contract, so he signed a new deal 2 years ago. He has a potential out in 2026. So I would expect them to like either cut him or move him after this season. So I think from a dynasty perspective, yeah, that's all going to work out. What's interesting is, so you mentioned it, Joe, earlier about like Matt LaFleur consistently being a good coach. We have Ben Johnson there now. It's like, was this an ego pick for Ben Johnson?
Oh,
right.
I think Luther Burden one was more of an ego pick, but that's a great question. I do the Waiver Wire show on the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast Network every Monday. I guess it's been Tuesday for a while. My co-host Jake Latarski and I really go over like too deep. Truthfully, we go too deep into this because I think he plays in some super deep leagues. I'm like, Jake, we really don't need to talk about this guy. And the person that comes to my mind so often is Brock Wright. You guys remember Brock Wright for the Lions? How many?
Yeah,
he could catch a touchdown pass, right? This is the Ben Johnson offense. What if Brock Wright is actually Cole Kmet, right? And that's a value to the Chicago Bears that will make the offense better this year. And to your point, more handsome, Joe, that if you can move past Cole Kmet next year, you're still setting yourself up to have this year's Sam Laporta, and then also have a better improvement on the Brock Wright role, which has been a function for Ben Johnson for as long as I can remember. I've had to do too many shows where he is shoehorned into the podcast for 2 minutes, and I hate it. So I'm not drafting Colston Loveland. I can acknowledge real world football value for what the Bears can use him for, but I would rather have Tyler Warren. Now, I'm going to give you one other rookie tight end that I think I would draft over all of them, and that's Mason Taylor for the Jets. There was some major steam towards the end of draft season, and I'm going to run up Tyler real quick. You had to draft in Nashville. You had to do the draft coverage. I did it literally in front of the draft stage itself in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So flex. Only time that somebody
we had people there. We had people there. We
no. But you weren't, Tyler. That's all that matters. I got to look really cool in front of the Green Bay Packers stage. No, but I really thought Mason
real OG
could be a first-round selection. I thought there was that point where you looked at his odds; it had been like 31.5. He was up with the Eagles, maybe trading up to get their Dallas Goedert replacement. He ends up going as one of the early second-round picks to the Jets. It's more of a PPR sort of selection because it's Garrett Wilson and then it feels like nothing else in New York. But I do think Mason Taylor is going to be primed to just be by default a 60 catch guy because there isn't anything else in that offense. And we know he's going to see snaps as a blocker too. So whereas Colston Loveland is going to be drafted as like the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th tight end, I think Mason Taylor, who you can get basically free anywhere, is going to have that same sort of value right now.
Yeah, I love it, Joe. Just so you know, you're not the less handsome Joe, but I can, I just want to give you your props there. So I took Mason Taylor in a ton of dynasty drafts. In fact, I think I got 100% exposure out of my dynasty leagues. I only play in like 5 because I don't have enough time to handle that many.
That's how I know that you run a fantasy football website. I'm only in 5 dynasty leagues.
But
I'm at 5.
I like Mason Taylor. I think that Justin Fields needs a dump off guy, and I think Mason Taylor could be that guy. And it just like it fuels. And that was one of our conversations because you had Jeremy Ruckert, who kind of had a little bit of an emergence for last year, right? And then you have Stone Smart, who they signed, and is a crazy like size, athleticism, specimen. And, people were wondering, well, okay, who's it going to be? And especially because coming in the draft, we actually got the narrative that Mason Taylor wasn't all that much of an athlete and he wasn't that mobile,
because he was hurt at the combine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. But then if you look at the tape, like if you look at the freaking tape,
I'm a fantasy football analyst. I don't look at tape. What are you doing?
Yeah, no, you got to look at the tape. You look at the tape on Mason Taylor, bro, and you're like, this guy can catch a football. Like he can do the thing. And so it's exciting. And when you're early tight ends that pop off are hard to find.
Right.
They're hard to find. It's one-offs. Most of the time it takes multiple years for them to really elevate. And if you look at even like the top, it took Evan Ingram a while. Mm-hmm. Kyle Pitts still ain't popped yet. It just takes tight ends a while to get in the game. And you get randoms like Sam Laporta, who was not the top tight end drafted that year, and Brock Bowers, who's a completely different conversation. Right. Totally different conversation. But I think Mason Taylor has what has what you need, and I'm in, Joe. I can't agree with you more. I think that's a great take, and it covers one of our conversation pieces here. And for the sake of not holding everybody over too long,
Tyler, can I jump in real quick because I never got a chance to weigh in on the Steelers side of things with Caleb Johnson. And if we end today having a Joe on Joe battle to the death, I think it's correct. Other more handsome Joe, when was the last time the Steelers ended up using a rookie running back that made a significant difference to that team?
It would have been Najee.
Would have been Najee, who Caleb Johnson is going to be replacing. And now that was literal corpse of quarterback Ben Roethlisberger, who force-fed Najee Harris 70 targets. That's not quite what's going to happen with my guy Aaron Rodgers necessarily. Hopefully not.
Aaron Rodgers just does drugs a little bit and does.
Yeah, the ayahuasca stuff is much different than the motorcycle things that Ben Roethlisberger does. Yes, I would agree with you. So I think there's a point to be made that Jaylen Warren is going to have some value, but I don't know if I agree with the Mike Tomlin doesn't use rookies if they're good and they have a role. Like Caleb Johnson is going to one-for-one replace Najee Harris, I think that's there. And to what Greg said earlier, which I thought was fantastic, the vision Caleb Johnson has more than makes it for the lack of explosiveness that some might deem him to be as a Big Ten running back. I think it's very clear what he did at Iowa. Like Caleb Johnson is a not electric in the same way Jonathan Taylor is, but people were dismissing Jonathan Taylor, and I'm from Wisconsin, so I can do this, as a guy that was like, oh, it's Rondane 2.0, whatever else. And Jonathan Taylor is way more explosive running back then. I think Caleb Johnson falls in that criteria, and more handsome Joe, you are going to be very happy that Caleb Johnson is a better, more explosive version of Najee Harris.
I'm thrilled. I'm so thrilled. And I think the other thing that's interesting to argue against myself is that Jaylen Warren has never cleared 160 touches in a season. So there's a lot of work out there to be had. I just think at the draft capital, that's more where I'm at.
I think that is their second round pick because they got rid of it for DK Metcalf. If they did not trade that second rounder for DK and Caleb Johnson was on the board, I would not have been shocked at all if they took Caleb Johnson, because that is the replacement of the Najee Harris role. So Najee hit 300 carries his rookie year. I'm just saying, like, that could be a function again this season, I think.
Yeah. No,
he goes from black and yellow to black and yellow. It's just good juju.
You know, he looks good in it. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a 5-minute lightning round. And this is you don't get much feedback. You know, if you have a sentence, you can share your sentence. We're going to all three hit it. I'm going to drop a battle. You say who wins the battle. Okay? And we'll go clockwise. So we'll go handsome Joe, we'll go real Joe, and then we'll go to Greg. And so, okay. Ready for this? Hope you guys watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It's going to be a good one. Okay. So, Cleveland Browns, who starts for the Cleveland Browns this year?
Tiny Hands, Kenny Pickett. Like, are you asking me for everyone who starts, or who's starting week 1?
No. Who is the fantasy asset to have this year for the Cleveland Browns?
Who's their punter?
No, quarterback. We're talking quarterback.
None. No, don't draft a Cleveland quarterback. No.
Just pick one, Joe. It's part of the exercise.
Shador.
Oh, that hurts. Okay.
Real Joe. I think Flacco starts week 1. I certainly don't think he ends it, but he's going to be the one that generates the best fantasy production out of those guys. So I'll say Flacco.
Greg?
The third Joe Flacco. That's it.
All right. Ready? Next one. Tyler Shuck or Spencer Rattler?
Shuck, yeah, baby. Come on.
I mean, I'm all the way in on Shuck. So yes, go. I mean, and when Kembe is a second round pick, I think Tyler Shuck's the call.
Spencer Rattler. I think Rattler.
Can you give us a little morsel why? Just give us like one sentence of why.
He's already had time in the NFL, and if he comes in hot at training camp, meshing with the ones, I think he just owns the role.
All right. Ooh, spicy. Okay. Keep moving. Okay. Running backs. Denver Broncos. RJ Harvey, J.K. Dobbins.
Tyler, cover your ears. RJ Harvey.
It's 100% RJ Harvey. Tyler, what would you think otherwise? I need to hear your
opinion. J.K. Dobbins is his boy. He loves J.K. Dobbins.
No, I like Dobbins because I think Dobbins, despite everything, is a good running back. In his career, he's never averaged less than 4 yards a carry. Like, and that didn't even freaking in Baltimore, I don't think he ever averaged less than 6 yards a carry.
Let's see, because he can only play 4 games a season. It's very easy.
No. Even in games where he played, like,
I just want to make Joe laugh. That's why I said it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. But so I've liked J.K. Dobbins. I think J.K. Dobbins' injuries have really given him a bad run. I think he was a talented back that could have really had a significant NFL career had it not been for the injuries. And so breaking my heart, but knowing Sean Payton, knowing how he likes to do, I'm with you on RJ Harvey. I think that's the one to have. Greg?
I lean a little bit J.K. Dobbins. He's got a special place in my heart. He was one of my first dynasty rookie picks ever. So him and Lamb. So I prefer him just slightly, but they're going to share the backfield. So it's kind of a toss-up.
At the ADP value, Dobbins is definitely cheaper, but I think RJ Harvey's going to have the breakout. Like, Dobbins is limited to like a 20, 30-yard run. Like, if he breaks away, he's going to get caught, and that's going to limit him. RJ Harvey can get loose and get an end zone. Okay. Moving down. Wide receivers. No. Sorry. One more running back. Dallas Cowboys. Javonte Williams, the recent progression and narrative of Miles Sanders, or rookie Jadon Blue?
Give me Colonel Sanders.
Miles Sanders. All right.
Can I say Phil Mafta? No, I'm not going to go that direction. Javonte Williams is probably the right call. I don't really want many of them, but you're talking about Javonte Williams or J.K. Dobbins, Javonte Williams or Najee Harris, all go in the same ADP. Javonte Williams has the obvious chance to be the best running back in that backfield and will get the most opportunities. So, like, I understand everyone's optimism for Dobbins and Najee Harris, an example, but they're going to share the backfield. I'm not positive Javonte Williams will, or if he, in the best case scenario, he is going to be the guy for the Cowboys.
Greg?
Yeah, it'll start with Javonte Williams, but Jaden Blue, a.k.a. Gibbs 2.0, he'll take over.
Oh, okay.
I want that one tatted. Blue
Blue is Kamani Vidal of this year.
Jadon Blue, like Jadon. I don't know if you've seen pictures of Jadon Blue. We talked about it last show. That guy's kind of blown up a little bit, and it makes.
Hey man, I lived in Texas for 10 years. You eating good down there? I can't blame him because I did the same thing.
I see 2.0. Yeah, I know. Look,
he needed to size up.
I am interested to see what Javonte does because I don't really feel like Javante's gotten his fair shake for his draft capital yet. And so, like in Dynasty, I think he's a really cheap buy low. And I'm interested in at least the risk because he was a good running back in college. I think he can be a good running back in the NFL. I just don't think he's really gotten the shot yet. And he's one of those guys where he needs touches. It's kind of like Derrick Henry. Like the more touches Derrick Henry gets, the better he gets, right? And Javonte needs touches, and I don't think he's gotten touches. So, okay, moving on. Wide receivers. We got one out of the wide receiver groups. Houston Texans. I think Nico is clear, but there is this debate between Christian Kirk and Jaden Higgins. And then you also have Jalen Knowles slotting in there somewhere. Where you at, Joe?
Give me Higgins, man. They guaranteed that contract for a reason. Christian Kirk, you're whatever slot receiver to me. I'm not really worried about you.
How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1, go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2, collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3, play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4, unleash your excitement.
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
I think Jaden Higgins is your Nico Collins gets injured every season replacement. And the answer actually is Christian Kirk. And that they have Jalen Knowles as the replacement for one Christian Kirk who gets injured every season is out there. But I think Christian Kirk, for what the Texans could do this year, is absolutely the guy. Stephon Diggs was featured heavily last year. It's a different offensive scheme, but rookie receivers, not always the immediate entrance point. And certainly Jalen Knowles wasn't that kind of receiver. So I think Christian Kirk actually is the correct answer for this.
All right, Greg.
Higgins will be the guy right behind Nico, and it'll be Noel and Kirk playing for the slot, and I don't think Kirk wins it. So that's my death trap for them. Yeah.
Okay, I got two more. These are tight ends. We got to hit them quick. We're way past time. Los Angeles Chargers. Mike Williams officially retired. We thought that wide receiver room, which is heavy, was going to be very heavy. But obviously losing that, it shifts a bit. So the question is at tight end. We have the Twitter videos going viral of, Tyler Conklin out there showing how to run routes, like doing this thing. And then we got Disley, we got Mr. Montana, and then we got probably one of the more hyped pass catchers at the tight end position in the rookie class, and Aronda Gadsden. Who gets the job, Joe?
I mean, after that performance, I got to pick Tyler Conklin. But before that performance, I also would have picked Tyler Conklin. So I think that Gaskin, he has potential, but he's still a project. They brought in Conklin for immediate use, so they wouldn't have signed him if they didn't need him.
I'm almost certain Tyler has ran a better route or could run better routes than Tyler Conklin was.
I saw it at the
featured on
Fantasy
video.
Expo last year, actually.
Yeah, that I'm
nice.
actually very certain that Tyler could do that more effectively than Tyler Conklin. It's either Disley or Gadsden, and I would rather take Gadsden as like a flyer, given the draft capital invested in him. We're talking about literally last pick in any of your drafts ever, though, because nobody is drafting Will Disley, nobody's drafting Tyler Conklin, no one's drafting Gadsden. So give me the roll of dice and the rookie.
Yeah,
And Scott Fishbowl, they're drafting him.
Oh.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, no, it's Conkey. I'll take the guy who's got the start at the start of the year. I don't know. Disley's not. He's more of like a blocking guy, and Gaston is a project. So yeah, I'll take Conklin.
I don't hate it. I do think watch out for Gadsden. I think that he can separate himself. I don't know that it happens immediately. I think, like you said, they brought in Conklin for a reason, but keep your eyes peeled. Especially if he doesn't start the season in Dynasty and then you can go get him for cheap, you might do that because I think he's got a shot. And, last one, Seattle Seahawks. Noah Fant, Elijah Arroyo, rookie versus vet. Who owns the job? Who gets Sam Darnold until he gets obliterated behind an awful offensive line and then gets Jalen Milroe? Who actually thrives, if anyone?
I think Fant's a more polished blocker, so he seals the field, but Arroyo has potential as like a goal line option for them, but I don't see either one of them being fantasy relevant. If I had to pick one for fantasy purposes, Fant's been a pretty big disappointment as far as like first round tight ends go for fantasy purposes. So give me the upside of Arroyo.
Yeah, I think the Arroyo conversation is exactly what Tyler said earlier about rookie tight ends take a lot of time to develop, and Arroyo was one of those that was just athlete and nothing else. That typically doesn't translate in the NFL. I would imagine for a guy like McDaniel, the head coach, comes from that Ravens lineage. He'll want to see the Charlie Cole or the Isaiah Likely make their way, like work their way up to that point. And I think Arroyo kind of qualifies. So no Fant by default, but I think the Seahawks offense could sneakily be like a bottom 5, bottom 10 offense in the league. And maybe the answer is just nobody overall. But I think I'd rather have Fant.
Yeah, you got mad scientists dropping in. Just don't draft either Seahawk or a Seahawk.
As soon as I seen Cooper Kupp's haircut, I knew they weren't winning the Super Bowl.
Oh, that was the only reason why you didn't think that? Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, Fant gets a lot of unnecessary hate. He doesn't perform well in fantasy, but he's a good player. He's just been in really bad dynamics for like the offenses he's been on. So I'll take Fant.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. Man, you talking about position battles. I had no idea how we were going to try to get through that list. I was like, we're going to do the best. I'm going to have to put these in like 3-minute sections. We went a little over, but hopefully you as listeners got the content you were looking for. You got questions or enough insight that you feel confident to make your decision going into your fantasy football drafts. Joe Frick, Real Joe, Greg, great having you guys on. Real quick, Greg and Real Joe, if you would just let the listeners know again where they can find your content and can connect with you as far as like in fantasy insights.
Go ahead, Joe.
Well, you can find me on JB Fantasy Sports on Twitter, but more importantly, my company RotoWire did a pretty big complete redesign of the site. Got some new colors, got a new logo. I think it looks really good, but more importantly,
it does look really good. Yeah, you guys did a good job.
We launched a new app, RW Football, on the App Store, both Google and iTunes. And I think this is probably the best mock draft simulator that I have found. I don't know if you guys recall this time in your life, but there was a real good 3-month period of my junior year of high school where I was exclusively on ESPN mock drafts, just like joining every single one, doing every one of those drafts. And I remember at the time hating how gosh darn long it took for the CPU of all people to make picks or some random people. The RotoWire mock draft tool I think is really awesome. Again, the RW Football app, it's free to go ahead and do that. There are draft assistant tools on the app itself. I think code YouTube15 gets you 15% off a RotoWire subscription. But overall, check out the site, my content on there, JB Fantasy Sports. More importantly, use the app to help beat everyone else in your league besides these guys. And I'll see everyone, I think, at the Fantasy Expo this year, or at least some of you guys. Handsome Joe and I are going to have a lot of pictures together. I know that for sure.
Oh, yeah. So many picks.
It's just on Twitter or X, Hype FFL, and the Fantasy Advantage on YouTube. You want to win your leagues, man, come check out my YouTube and listen to my content. My rankings are phenomenal. And just come watch and hope to see you guys again. I love being on here, man. I appreciate getting invited. And
Greg, no one said it, but you're beautiful too, baby. Come on.
Thank you.
It was a student.
It once in a while.
I love the literal, grass growing on the back wall there behind him. It's absolutely killer. Now,
thank you.
Look, thank you guys for tuning in. It's always a privilege every Friday night, 9:00. It's a privilege to drop content for you guys. And always we have some great guests. Joe, Greg, I mean, you guys were killer. Thanks for dropping the knowledge and sharing it with our viewers. Go check out Greg's stuff, Hype FFL. Joe, go check it. RotoWire is a partner for us. We work together on our platform. Support those guys. Great fantasy football content. Look, if you want to win your leagues, tap in. All right, tap in. Whether it be RotoWire, FFAN, Hype, people are bringing it, right? And it's different takes, and it just may separate you, right, enough to win another championship. And so again, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week, 9:00 Central, Friday night from the forum. Have a good one. Good night.
Good night.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.